Navratara. So I think people got a very good gist on this. Second thing today, which I really wanted to talk about is, because I know a lot of the traditional and other astrologers, they don't take the nakshatras in the Varga charts. But I wanted to ask you, what is your take? What is your analysis? Do nakshatra works in the Varga charts as well? What you have seen in your research? I know because you see a lot of charts, you do a lot of consultation. So what you have seen?
Well, to be frank, Amanji, I definitely know that in traditional astrology, they don't teach you to look at nakshatras in the Varga chart. There is no way, there is no mention of that in Parashara,
Right.
there is no mention of that in any classical. You are not going to find anything.
Right.
In fact, they specifically tell you certain amshas for specific things. You know, they say this is Narad Muni's amsha, there is this Durvasa Muni's amsha, and so on. You know, so there are certain amshas for each of those. There are certain energies for each of those rashis actually.
Right.
You know, when you're reading a Varga chart, you should. It's not. We can't really read it like a zodiac chart also, like the Rashi chart. You know, it's actually you're not looking at Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. You're looking at Narad Muni, Durvasa Muni, Angiras Muni, stuff like that. You're looking at even in the Dashansha chart, you're looking at the actual deities, Indra, Vayu, Varna, and so on. Those kind of deities is what you're actually reading in those signs. Actually, that's what you should be reading. You know. But the thing with nakshatras again, now here is a big concept for me, Amanji. This is something I always try to teach my students. You know,
Yes.
like we tend to assume that Jyotish is actually something you know that can only be absorbed or studied from classics. You know, sure, classics are great, but we have to remember what the classics was actually written by someone. Someone was a rishi. Now, what is the definition of a rishi? A definition of rishi is someone who is a seer, right? Someone who is seeing something. That is actually a rishi. Now, what happens if you start to see something? When you begin to observe, then by definition, you are actually accessing a portion of the rishi's power. You are actually observing it. You know, so whatever the rishis observe, that is what they actually wrote down. That is what they wrote down in the classics and stuff like that. Of course, you have to pay respect to that. All that, you know, you can learn as much as possible from that, for sure, no doubt about that. But you know what I've seen is that because it's an act of observation, right, the observer also becomes important part of what is actually being observed also.
So, yes.
You know, it's very important. So deep quantum mechanical principle, to be frank. Whatever, now they say, if you begin to look at you know, this quantum mechanical concepts of universe and stuff like that, there are actual scientists who are actually saying that, you know, an object doesn't exist until you actually observe that object.
Right.
You don't see something until the observer actually observes that object clearly. You know, right. So what this would actually translate for an astrologer is that when an astrologer is able to observe something, he will actually be able to see that.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So we tend to assume astrology as a science that is independent of the observer. Now, sure, it's an actual. There are a lot of sciences like that. 1 + 1 is actually 2. Anywhere in the world you go. But
right.
In my opinion, astrology. Amanji.
Right. Your voice got for a few seconds again. Can you hear me, Sandeep ji?
Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to again re-emphasize this idea that, you know, astrology is an actual science based on the astrologer himself or herself, you know,
right.
Because and you have to remember there is an actual reality which only comes out when you are actually observing it.
Right.
You know, now you have to remember, now astrology, it is as simple as this. If you carry the energy of certain techniques in you, you can use that energy to observe and actually make sense of the reality yourself.
Right.
It's as simple as that. We assume that astrological techniques are dead techniques. It doesn't carry any life. These are pure mathematical techniques.
Yes.
That's what we assume. But every technique is having its own energy.
Right.
It's a very deep concept. Every technique, like for instance, Nadia astrology is carrying its own energy. You know, like even you know, in Gemini system is actually carrying its own energy.
Yes.
only when you have those particular energy will you be able to use that particular system of
Yes.
astrology to analyze. It is as simple as that.
Yes.
So if you carry the energy of nakshatras, then you can use the nakshatras to actually analyze anything.
Right.
Just how does that? You know,
Right.
of course, it will take for this particular system for nakshatras to be used in a very popular manner. It will take more time and research and things like that. You know, of course, it will take time.
Right.
In fact, I have to say that I would actually encourage everyone to use this particular way of looking at divisional charts and see if it's working out or not.
Right.
This is actually the process that is happening. I'm saying that this technique is not existing in the classics. Second, I'm saying that you have to start observing and see the action.
Yes.
Third, I'm saying is that when you begin to observe and when you begin to understand, there is an actual logical basis for using this energies of nakshatras to analyze it. You'll find that it's giving you great results.
Right.
In fact, the simple thing of Navamsha nakshatras, if you begin to use Navamsha nakshatra, you can get extremely accurate results. You can actually predict so look at the nakshatra in your Rashi chart.
Right.
Look at the nakshatra where the planet is going in the Navamsha chart. Try to connect both the Rashi chart and Navamsha chart. Look at the house distance from the Rashi chart placement to the Navamsha chart placement.
Right.
Simply doing simple things like that can give you extremely powerful insights, especially in the Navamsha nakshatras,
No, I 100% agree, sir. Because even if I take my own chart, because one can learn more about himself with their own chart or of their near and dear ones, I think my D9 nakshatras are more active than the D1 nakshatras.
Yes.
And I can resonate and I can relate to my D9 more as compared to the birth chart. This is again, in my opinion, in my observation, I have seen. So I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, of course, Amanji. I have to say, I had it's very surprising the kind of detail you can get with that. In fact, I was for most of the spiritually interested people, for most of the spiritual people who are walking a spiritual path, people in ashrams and stuff, you'll find that reading the D9 chart would actually make more sense because they are already walking their path. That's a big thing. And then, in fact, I remember one case in which this guy said that one Nadi palm leaf guy actually said that he was cursed as a cow because he started chasing women as a sannyasi.
Wow.
In a past life, he was cursed to be a cow.
Wow.
And his guru cursed him to be a cow. And when you look at his Rashi chart, there was nothing like that. But you look at his D9 chart, he actually had Rahu in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra.
Oh, wow.
Which is the animal of which is cow.
Yes. Cow.
So you couldn't see that from the Rashi chart clearly. When I used nakshatras in the D9 chart, immediately it became so obvious. Rahu is cursed. Cow is like nakshatra of Uttara Bhadrapada, the animal of Uttara Bhadrapada. And so those kind of details was why I started to actually pay more attention to the nakshatras in the divisional charts. And I definitely, I'm saying this again, this is not, you won't find this in the classics. This is actually, I'm asking you directly to become like a rishi, to start observing and make your own assessments. And of course, I do believe that it works. In fact, Dr. Pai himself makes great predictions based on the nakshatras of D12 charts, D60 charts. There are astrologers who use D60 heavily, especially in nakshatra terms, and they can literally tell you exactly what you're seeing.
Absolutely.
So of course, we have to remember that astrology finally is a science of Jyotisha, is actually the science of light also. And to actually see the light, you actually have to observe or see the light.
Right.
So when the act of seeing itself is linking the observer, who you are, to the light or the object you're trying to see also. And then, then it becomes purely a matter of energy at that level, at that deep level. And then if you access that deep level, then you can connect anything. Like you can use nakshatras heavily, you can use rashis heavily, you can even use one simple concept heavily into that at that deep level and begin to understand that at the deepest level possible, So that's why Amanji, I would, for me, this actually, I understand the hesitancy of many astrologers. You won't find this in the classics, 100%. But this is actually, I would actually encourage any astrologer to begin to use it, start observing, start gathering
more research,
right? More research, see if it makes sense. So that's when truly, Amanji, I believe that astrology as a science can progress.
Yes.
We can't. can't get stuck in the classics. Obviously, we, of course, classics have its place. Yeah, we can use the foundation of classics, but we have to remember that astrology at the end is the science of light. At some point, we'll have to start asking what is the actual light we are seeing,
Right.
who is actually seeing it, what is the eye, what is the mechanism of the eye that we are actually using to see the light also. Exactly that. So at some point we'll begin to ask, and whenever that point is reached, that's when techniques like using nakshatras in the divisional charts will make more sense.
More sense. Yes.
Before that, in fact, what I would simply say to astrologers who are not using it is that they just don't have that kind of energy in them, in which they have developed that sense of energy of using nakshatras.
Right.
It's as simple as that. In fact, the easiest way, again, Amanji, I would say is that, we all have karmas with certain areas of knowledge as well.
Absolutely. I was about to come on that point. Yes.
Yeah, exactly that. So like we all have certain karmas to advance classical astrology, or to even advance, nakshatra astrology, or even to use Nadia astrology, or even KP astrology, or anything like that. So there is even knowledge is having its own karma.
Right.
So even we have to develop, we have to have certain karmas to do certain kind of, to use certain kind of techniques also.
I can vouch for this, Sandeep, because of the 27 friends I always say on my social media, I'm sitting in front of you. Because I think I had some prarabdha karma or some pending karma with these deities. If it was Gemini or if it was KP, it does not make that much sense. But as soon as someone talk about nakshatras, it makes bang on sense to me. So I totally agree with you. And coming back to the nakshatras and the Varga charts, what I have seen, sir, if I'm looking at someone's chart, just like you have mentioned about the D1, it does not make any sense. And if if they have a question related to just to the career part, and if I see the Vargas related to Dwadamsha, which is the D10 chart, and the nakshatras working in that, it absolutely makes sense. What they are saying, the symptoms of what they are saying or what they are experiencing, it is not matching with the D1, but it is matching absolutely with the D10.
Yep, exactly.
So again, the observation part comes very handy. So I 100% agree with you. The more research needs to be done, more observation and more karmic energy exchange needs to be done on that part. So that was my
again, Amaji, I admire the astrologers who want to. I truly admire them. I truly admire the astrologers who want to stick with the classics and they don't want to budge from the classics, and that works for them great.
Yes.
Of course, that's we can't say that is the only way to do astrology, because in India that means that you will be removing Nadia astrology completely. You'll be removing KP astrology, which is fantastic at giving predictions completely.
Exactly.
You'll be removing even the Arabic astrology. So how is that happening? So it's all. In fact, one the simplest thing I will say, Amanji, is that it's as if that there is certain cycles which astrology as a science will also go through. It's also as part of that. And definitely certain kinds of knowledge will come only in certain times as well, and even in your own life also certain kind of knowledge will come on. In fact, I know Kapilji was saying that when he studied Gemini, he completely changed it, because you are actually, if I understand it correctly, Gemini is actually country with Ketu.
Ketu.
So it's like Ketu is actually your Ketu begins to be purified when you actually study Gemini, and say you have moon with 8th house or something like that, nakshatra karma will be immediately purified. Very easily it can happen. Moon with Ketu or 8th house, Rahu, anything like that. Even like any other Mercury in 8th house, anything like that, is KP kind of astrology comes very easily and stuff like that. So what I'm simply saying is that there is an actual astrology of astrologies as well. So like certain planets are controlled with certain kind of astrology as well. So it's as a matter of that. So like some people will be using Rashi based astrology very easily.
Yes.
You can use that very easily. Sun
they can predict a lot just with the signs. They don't need to see the nakshatras. Yes.
Exactly that. And that's completely fine for them, because that's the exact energy they're carrying. That is the energy they're using to see this chart. And then that is what will make sense to them also. It's just straightforward as that.
Yes.
So if you
and
carry that
energy, that.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's very important, because at the end of the day, we are basically we are using astrology to connect with our own deepest aspect of our soul. That's what is happening. We are trying to bring more awareness into our own lives, into our own deepest aspect of ourselves.
Right.
through understanding of our karmas for sure. And of course, we have to, at some point, the actual person who is involved in that process, the observer, the astrologer, becomes the actual science of astrology itself also at some point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's as simple as saying that it's as simple as saying that if Parashara was the only astrologer out there, then Gemini wouldn't be existing at all. But then you find that Gemini was actually giving a new astrology kind of based on Parashara concepts and stuff. And the astrologers were actually able to combine Parashara system with Gemini masters.
Gemini, yes.
It's as simple as that. So the more you actually learn, the more you become a master of it.
Yes.
It's as simple as that.
And I would say the biggest example in that would be legendary K.N. Rao Saab, because he mix. Sometimes I have seen in charts. There are not many videos of him, but he includes Prashara with Gemini concepts. So
yeah, no, 100%.
Whatever works with you, just like you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think even combining, you can get great results by simply combining the Mahadashas with the Charadashas.
Yes.
Look at the planets, look at the Mahadasha planets, look at what that Mahadasha planets are ruling when certain Charadashas are operating. You can give great, brilliant results.
So that I have seen, sir, working brilliantly. Whatever the Vimshotri Dasha is saying, that exactly the Charadasha is watching for the same thing, for the same incident. Many times I have seen it.
Yeah. So that's an important thing, Amanji. I know there are astrologers out there who don't believe in using nakshatras in Vargas, and that's completely fine.
Right.
What I would actually encourage people is to start observing and see if it works for them.
Right.
But then again, we just need to understand that for certain kind of knowledge to come your way, there has to be certain kind of timing or certain kind of karma to be done as well. It's as simple as that. If you don't have the karma, that kind of knowledge won't work out for you as well.
I remember, sir, again last week, I had my elder brother, Gitanshuji, on my channel, and he spoke on Navamsha. So I remember I think she was an astrologer. She commented on the video as well, that she said, I can totally watch what Mr. Malhotra ji is saying. In her research, she mentioned the Sade Sati effect of Navamsha is more prominent than the D1. So that was her research, which I really
Manji, I would say Sade Sati works out on all Varga charts if you look at it.
Right.
Sade Sati as Sade Sati as a concept works on all Varga charts.
Yes.
You can even, it's easiest thing to look at, I would say just one thing with Varga chart, just look at where Sun, Moon and Ascendant is placed and just superimpose that chart on the Rashi chart,
Wow.
and then superimpose that particular Varga chart. You can get a lot of clues on that, because wherever Sun and Moon are luminaries, right? So they'll actually add the brightness that will become very important one way or the other. Right. And then based on that, those two planets and the Lagna, you can give a lot of results. And then say you add the layer of nakshatras on top of that, you can become extremely precise. Like this particular is exactly what you would want. This is how you would feel about it, and then you can go around that in many ways. So that's something I would actually encourage people to do more research on. Start paying attention to that. See if it makes sense,
Yes.
And definitely, certain techniques will. In fact, I think it was Ernest Willem who said that the astrologer was recommending tropical astrology with sidereal nakshatra. He was saying that what do you study in astrology? So just choose some topic which you resonate with. Simply start studying that more. So and then eventually that, and he actually specializes in some other system. He uses Avastas or something like that. Right. But and that works out for him great. And that's exactly what. That's when I realized that okay, fine. If you don't carry certain energies for certain systems, knowledge system, you just can't use that knowledge system at all. And so it's become very important to work with what is actually making sense to you and to build things upon that.
Right.
So it's as simple as that, Ramanji. But I would definitely say that there are, in fact, my actual thought process was this: if there are 100 ways to find God, at least if there are 100 ways to find God, you can at least say there are 9 ways to study astrology.
Wow.
In my opinion, there'll be 9 ways to study astrology, at least in the basic level. 100% there'll be 9 ways to study astrology. You can study it based on Sun, Moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Rahu, and Ketu. You can use all those 9 ways. And Amanji, there are in Kerala, there is this system called as beetle leaf astrology. They'll actually they'll ask the house owner to give them a certain kind of give a number of beetle leaves.
Right.
It's an actual astrological system based on beetle leaves, like leaves of beetle plant. And then look at one leaf, they'll say, okay, this leaf is good. So it's this house is having good wealth, whatever. Second, this is the third house leaf. They look at third leaf. Okay, problems with siblings. The leaf is torn. There's something going on. Maybe his communication is a problem or something like that. He's not having a job. And they're actually using beetle leaves to give prediction. They're actually using leaves to give prediction. Forget about looking at charts. So if there are astrologers
again, that tells me connecting to the mother nature, it is very important.
100%. You can reading Nimitta or Oman, you can give all kinds of prediction based on the movement of a cat or dog. A cat moving from one direction to another direction, you can give prediction. Cat moving from a dog moving from one direction to another direction, you can give prediction. You can give exact prediction. There are people who do that. I've met those, You can, and that's why in ancient times, people used to have some kind of pets because they would look at what the pet is doing and then they would be able to give all kinds of predictions also. Crows, they say in England and stuff, they have witches with crows and cats, So and that's exactly that. They'll look at what the crow is doing, what the cat is doing. They'll be able to make sense of all that.
Yes.
That's but it's as simple as this, Amanji. If you can use beetle leaves to give a prediction of an entire family, not just one person, you're giving a prediction of an entire family, then you can use nakshatras to give simple predictions for an individual person.
No, you have said it very well. 9 ways to connect with astrology. I think I have not heard anything like that before.
Yeah, for sure. That's
everything in one line.
Yeah, that's very true. I think sun-based people with strong sun energy, they will use Rashi-based astrology. Moon-based people will use nakshatra very easily. Mars people will use Nadi-based astrology, the triangle form of astrology very easily.
Yes.
I think the Mercury people will be using KP kind of system very strongly. I think Jupiter people will be using Parashari classics based on system very strongly. Saturn people will be using, I think, Venus people will be using Brigu kind of systems very strongly. And then I think Saturn people will be using,
more classical.
Yeah, probably more classical tech, extremely conservative things and things like that. Rahu people will be using completely out of the ordinary kind of thing. They will probably be doing tantric kind.
Something from the Roman, from the Greek mythology as well.
Exactly. Yes. Greek mythology. They might actually be using spirits to do astrology. Very easily they can do that.
Yes.
In Ketu people, I've seen they use omens very strongly. They use omens they're using that intuition very strongly. Again, they can also use spirits and stuff like that. That's also one more thing I've seen. And that's an actual legitimate way to do astrology. There are people, in fact, in India, in Kerala for sure, they say that your astrology is only as good as the deity whom you worship. It's only as useful how good your worship of your deity is. And that makes sense, because Kerala is complete Rahu kind of land. There are a lot of snakes everywhere, stuff like that. And then it becomes very important for them. It's an actual legitimate system of astrology. You can't say it doesn't work, because they are able to give fantastic predictions. So that's the key thing, Amanji. I think that this idea is actually having some kind of validity around it. I think eventually over time, I've seen that certain regions they'll specialize in certain kinds of astrology also. Certain people will also be specializing correspondingly in certain kinds of astrology, and that's very natural thing to happen.
Right. No, it's good that we have spoken about this and people will get a very good gist on the key point. Again, I will repeat what Sandeep ji have just mentioned is more observations, more research, whatever works, whatever energy connects with you more, work on that. That's what he beautifully mentioned. So, sir, I will come to the last segment of the video.